Hi everyone. I wanted to take a quick break from marking some yoga teacher training assignments here to show you some of my favorite stretches and exercises that I do at the desk to keep my upper back and neck feeling well. So it's useful for me to find some sort of external cue that reminds me that it's a good time to make some movements that I maybe am not making in my activities at my workplace. So whether that's a little timer that goes off every hour or something else that's built in as part of your routine, maybe you have a daily meeting or a daily Zoom call that you have to be on, and before or after that call, before and after your lunch break, whatever it might be, that just cues you to take a couple of moments for some movement. So anytime that we're going to be moving from a seated position, there's three things that can be really helpful. The first is to make sure that at least two of the legs of your chair are on either a non-slip grippy mat, like a yoga mat, or on carpeting. So you can kind of push into it and make sure that you can feel safe knowing it's not going to be sliding around as you move. The second thing that's important is that the seat part of the chair that you're sitting on is relatively parallel to the ground, or if you're able to adapt the functions of the chair, or you could bring a cushion underneath you to bring your seat slightly higher than your knees so that you're assisting in this sort of downhill decline from the hips to the knees, as opposed to knees being higher than the hips, bringing tension and bringing compression into the hip creases. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you're seated right to the front edges of the chair. So in doing so, I'm sitting really to the tops of my legs, up on the bony parts where my leg and the bottom of my seat meet, right on what's called the ischial tuberosities, these little bony protrusions at the tops of your leg. So with my feet flat on the floor, sitting on those ischial tuberosities, I'm going to take a moment or two to shift and adjust my spine to try to find as much length and as much neutrality as possible. Without a mirror handy or an x-ray machine, it might be difficult to find whether or not your spine is in neutral. So one of the tools that I use that I find works really well is to sort of feel, as long as you don't have any injuries coming into this movement practice in your back, when you shift and adjust and eventually find yourself in a neutral spine, it feels as though the whole spine is working at the same time to the same amount. So in contrast, if I come out of that neutral shape, within a couple of moments, I start to really feel strain in one or two particular joints of my back. But when I can sit up onto those hip creases, when I can find the neutral curvature of my spine, it feels like the whole spine is working in tandem to keep me supported in this way. My arms can hang heavy and I can find myself supported here. Now from this shape, interlace the fingers just like this and bring them to the occipital ridge. So right at the base of your skull where it feels comfortable. Once you have your hands in that place, you're going to sort of pull on the hands, almost like they were going to pull apart, but keeping them together. Give a little pull on the hands. Now be mindful that bringing your arms up in this way, you haven't taken the spine out of its neutral shape. Sometimes when the arms come up, people have a tendency to kind of flare their ribs forward. So try to really engage through your whole abdominal system, from your chin to your chest, the front, sides, and back of your body, all the way to the pelvic floor. So there's a little bit of support here for this shape. Now we're kind of going to stretch, as you pull the fingertips, you're going to stretch the elbows further apart and reach with your center of your body up slightly. So stay rooted in the seat and no pinching in the low back. If you're feeling pinching in the low back, come out of it slightly and think of lifting upwards. And as you exhale, we'll do the opposite. So you're going to kind of tuck your tail between your knees, bring the elbows towards one another. You're not going to pull on your head, so you kind of have to push your head back into your hands to prevent your hands from pulling the head forward. And you're going to round the spine here. So as I do this, I'm pushing the back of my head into my hands. So inhale, pulling on the fingers, elbows open wide from the middle of your back, not just the chest. Take that whole heart center up to where the wall meets the ceiling in front of you. Exhale, tuck your tail between your knees, push your head back into your hands and round the whole spine, the low back, the mid back. In again, elbows wide, tail is lifting. Exhale, tail is going to tuck, push the head back into the hands, and maybe do this one more time. So I'm going to really contract the back of my body here to open up the front. And then I'm contracting the front of my body to open up the back. Coming back to center now. Take your right hand and bring it behind your back. So we're back in this neutral spine. With the right hand, you can reach it as high up your back as it'll reach. So keep sort of center in your, towards your spine and reach it up towards the center of your back as far as you can without straining the shoulder and without changing the shape of your spine. From there, you're going to take your left arm, bring it around to drape on top of the right side of your head, and then gently contract the left side of your neck to bring your left ear towards your left shoulder. Now, it might look like I'm pulling with the hand, but in fact, once I find by myself that full tilt, I can place the hand and then create resistance. So I'm actually pushing my head against my hand as though my head's going to come back to center. So find that full tilt, place your hand, and then push your head into your hands and resist. And you're going to breathe here for 5, 4, in and out through your nose, 2, 1. Now, take the hand away so you can turn your chin as far as it'll turn to the left. Look down like you were smelling your own underarm and take your hand to the back of the head now. Again, without pushing on your head, you're actually going to keep your spine in neutral and push the back of the head into the hand. Breathe in and out through the nose. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then let go of the head. Bring yourself back to neutral. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to take that left hand now. Bring it behind your back and then spider it as far up your back as you can. Bring your right ear towards your right shoulder as far as you can, and then take your right hand around to the left side of your head. Resist, push, and resist. So I'm actually pushing with my head, resisting with my hand while you breathe in neutral spine. Just for about 5 more seconds. And then let that go, come back to neutral. Turn your chin as far to the right as it will go, and then tuck the chin down towards your chest. Take your hand and reach it back to the back of your head, and then push your head up like you were going to lift your chin up. Push your head into your hand. Resist that push. 5, 4, breathing in and out through the nose. Taking that away, letting the arms hang, coming back to where we started in neutral. Lastly, making your arms like little chicken wings, you're going to just make big circles through the shoulders. So this is something that looks pretty familiar to movements that we've done a lot since maybe we were kids in gym class, circling in both directions. The difference here is 2 things I want you to keep in mind. The first is that my spine is going to stay completely neutral. So I'm not actually making the movement from my torso. Visualize the shoulder blade tips on the back of your back, finding these movements on top of your ribs. You could also have your arms hanging down if that feels more comfortable. I just feel like I have more control here. So if you visualize those shoulder blade tips, bring your imagination right into the tips of those shoulder blades nestled behind your back on either side of your lower heart. You're going to bring them back towards one another like they're giving them a little kiss. Up as far as they'll go. Up, up, up. Then forward, you're bringing the shoulder blade tips away from one another, as far away as they'll stretch, and then depress them down towards the ground. So really focus on these 4 different movements of the shoulder blade. Change directions, but it's the same 4 movements. After that, take a breath or two to sit. Maybe bring your hands into the ribs and try to fill the breath into your hands for about 3 or 4 breaths. Silent, soundless breaths in and out through the nose. And if you are someone who works at a computer, a great place to do this is by a window where you can look out the window, look as far, 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 far as your eyeballs can see. So look for something that's the furthest from you. And even if you're not at a window, take your eyes away from the screen for a moment and look as far away as your eyes can focus, something you can see that's the furthest away from you, while you focus on the breath, spreading some space into the ribs. And last breath here. So this is something that you can do throughout your day, one of many types of movements you could do from right where you sit to be sure that your body isn't being sacrificed for the sake of your seated desk job. I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.